The world has decided the narcissist is simply evil, and there is comfort in that. It asks nothing of your understanding. But a man who wants to be free of what was done to him cannot afford comfort. He needs the truth, and the truth is stranger and more useful than the word monster will ever allow. I want to speak to the man who was damaged by someone like this, and who is tired of content that only tells him to run, when what he actually needs is to understand. Let me say the first thing plainly, so nothing that follows is mistaken. Understanding why someone harmed you is not the same as excusing. The wound they left in you is real, the damage was real, and nothing I say tonight reduces their responsibility for it by a single degree. I am not here to defend them. I am here to do something the victim rescue content can never do for you. I am going to show you what is actually happening inside a person like that, because the man who understands the machine that hurt him is the only man who ever fully stops bleeding from it. So look with me at what is really behind the narcissism. There is a need every human being is born with, the need to be worthy, to matter, to have a self that is real and valuable. In a person who grows well, that need gets met from the inside. They come to possess a quiet, unshakable sense that they are enough, simply because they exist. But in the person who becomes a narcissist, something went catastrophically wrong at that foundation. Somewhere early, they learn that the real self, the actual, ordinary, flawed human self, was not acceptable, was not lovable, was not enough. The wound at the bottom of every narcissist is not arrogance. It is the opposite. A shame so total, so annihilating, that the person could not survive feeling it. A conviction that what they actually are is worthless, and no one can live inside that. So they did the only thing a soul can do when its true self feels unbearable. They built a false one, a grand one, a self that was special, superior, exceptional, beyond criticism, a god erected directly over the grave of the worthless self they could not bear to be, and they moved into that false god, and they have been living there ever since, because the moment they step out of it, the annihilating shame is waiting exactly where they left it. Now everything they do makes a terrible kind of sense. The endless need for admiration, that is the false god demanding the worship it requires to stay standing, because it has no foundation of its own. It runs entirely on external supply. The rage when they are criticized, that is not strength either. A criticism, to a normal man, is information. To the narcissist, it is a crack in the only structure keeping him from falling into the abyss of his own worthlessness. So he attacks it with a violence that seems insane to you, because to him it is literally a matter of survival. The contempt, the way they made you small, that is the false god holding itself up by standing on someone, because a god needs someone beneath it to prove it is above. And the chilling absence of empathy in the moment they hurt you. Empathy requires a stable self that can afford to feel another person. A man clinging to a counterfeit self over a pit of shame has nothing to spare. Every drop of his resource goes to keeping the god aloft. This is the great and tragic irony of it, and I want you to hold it, not because it lets them off the hook, but because it sets you free. The person who damaged you was not powerful. They were the most fragile kind of person there is, a human being so terrified of their own worthlessness that they had to become a god to survive, and then had to feed that god with your diminishment, your admiration, your pain. What looked like overwhelming strength was a man holding a paper crown onto his own head with both hands, in a hurricane, every hour of his life. So here is what this does for you. As long as you believe they were strong, you will keep wondering what was wrong with you that you could not satisfy them, hold them, be enough for them. You will keep carrying the verdict they handed you, that you were the problem. But you can never be enough for a false god, because false gods cannot be fed. The supply goes into a structure with no floor. It was never about your inadequacy. It was about a wound in them that no amount of your love was ever going to reach, because they had built an entire god specifically to make sure nothing ever reached it. You did not fail to be enough. You were trying to fill a vessel built to never be full. And there is a warning in this for you too, the one the Matrix would insist I give you. Do not take what you now understand and turn it into a weapon. Do not become the amateur diagnostician who walks through life pinning the label on everyone who disappoints him, because that is just another way of standing on someone to feel above them, and a man who has been near this wound long enough is not immune to catching it. Understand them so you can be free, not so you can prosecute. The goal was never to win the case. The goal was to put the case down and walk out of the courtroom a free man. I wrote about the wound beneath this, the self that was meant to reach toward the heights and instead inflated into a false god, the shame it is built to hide, and the long road back to a real self that needs no worship, in Awaken Your Shadow. If you have been trying to understand someone who hurt you, or trying to make sure you never become them, that is where the road continues. What's behind their narcissism is not a monster. It is a frightened person kneeling before a god they built out of their own terror, feeding it with everyone who ever loved them, knowing that will not make what they did acceptable. But it will at last make it make sense, and it will hand you back the one thing they took, the truth that you were never the reason it was never enough. And once you can see their wound that clearly, without flinching, and without picking up the prosecutor's case against them, you are ready to turn that same gaze in the one direction it was always meant to go, inward. Because here's the secret underneath everything on this channel. Every battle you've ever lost against yourself, the anger, the anxiety, the sabotage, you lost for one reason. You went in without the one presence that can end the war. This presence has been with you the whole time. It watched every collapse, every relapse, every 2 a.m. spiral, and it remained untouched. This presence is the reason some men become ungovernable while others stay stuck reading about it. It outranks intelligence, willpower, even faith, because it's the part of you the Matrix cannot reach. This is why I created the Somatic Shadow Work Sleep Learning series. Each meditation in this series dives into a different dimension of your inner self. As you relax and listen, you'll feel the fears, insecurities, and limitations of your daily life begin to dissolve. With daily repetition, a sharper and more self-assured version of you will begin to emerge. This higher self has been within you all along, awaiting its activation. You'll find a link to this Somatic Shadow Work series below this video, or simply click the video that shows up in the final screen of this one. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to this channel for more like it.